This short video is to help my Management 205 Fast Track class of Spring 2023 prepare for the final exam. The exam is 85% the chapters covered after the midterm, 15% on basic managerial information. Chapter 9. Chapter 9, you should know the different ways to departmentalize, the difference between staff and line authority, and the difference between being decentralized or centralized. That's all from Chapter 9. Chapter 10 is the chapter on teams. First, you should know what a team is. You should know advantages and disadvantages of teams. Make sure you know about groupthink. Let's see here. And you should also know the stages of team development and different kinds of teams. The kinds of teams that I'm referring to are cross-functional, virtual, and project teams. You should know what's meant by team norms, team cohesiveness, and the best size for an effective team. And those are the most important subjects from Chapter 10. Let's talk about Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is the chapter on human resource management. First, there are some employment laws that you should be aware of, like EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity, ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. You should also know about sexual harassment. Recruiting. You should know what recruiting is and methods for recruiting. You should also know what a job analysis is and its components, the job description and the job specification. Advantages of recruiting internally and the advantages of recruiting externally. What is selection? And this is important. The interview. First, you should know what you should not say in an interview. You should also know the difference between a structured interview and an unstructured one. Different methods for training And what is a performance appraisal? Also, what is the 360? I want to get this right. What is compensation? Lastly, the 4 different ways employees leave the company: termination, downsizing, retirement, or employee turnover. That's going to do it for chapter 11. Chapter 13 is a rich chapter. First, you should know what is motivation. There's a little background information that includes Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the Hawthorne studies. You should know the difference between extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards. Now, in terms of the theories, you should know what equity theory says and the major components: inputs, outcomes, and reference. Also, how people react when they believe they've been treated unfairly. Next is expectancy theory. You should know expectancy theory and its major components, right? Attractive rewards. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You need to understand what equity theory says. Reinforcement theory. This is the theory that says behavior is the outcome of its results. In other words, behavior that you want to see repeated should be rewarded, and behavior that you do not want to see repeated should not be rewarded. Notice I stopped short of saying punished. Now, you should know what is positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and punishment. What's meant by a reinforcement schedule? And I think that'll do it for reinforcement. Goal setting theory is the next one. You should know what goal setting theory says and the components of goal setting theory. Those are the major concepts from chapter 13. Chapter 14, leadership. First, you should be able to define leading or leadership. You should also know the difference between a leader and a manager. You should know what's meant by trait theory, leadership traits. Now, in terms of theories, make sure you know Fiedler's contingency theory and how it's different from the other situational leadership theories. Fiedler's theory says that a manager cannot change their style. Thus, they function best when they're matched with the situation, matched up to their style. So you're also going to look at situational favorableness in terms of Fiedler. Hershey Blanchard, situational leadership theory. Okay, Hershey Blanchard's theory says leaders need to adjust their leadership styles to match the followers' readiness. You should know what is an R1, R2, R3, and R4. And the approach. For example, for R1, telling. For R2, selling. For R3, participating. And for R4, delegating. Next theory, path goals theory. You should simply know what path goals theory says. It's basically about removing obstacles to your goal. And it also talks about leadership styles, supportive, participative, achievement-oriented. Next we have the normative decision theory. Normative decision theory, also known as the Vroom-Yetton model, helps leaders decide how much employee participation should be used when making decisions. The decision styles are a continuum from autocratic 1, which means no input from subordinates, all the way through G2 or group, where you let the group discuss and come up with the solution. And there's a continuum along the way. Autocratic, consultative, and group. You should be familiar with the idea of this theory. Also, let's talk about charismatic leadership. You simply need to know what charismatic leadership says. Charismatic leaders have strong, confident, dynamic personalities that attract followers and enable the leaders to create strong bonds with their followers. What happens when you have an ethical, charismatic leader, and what happens when you have an unethical leader? That's pretty much it for chapter 14. Oh, and before I forgot, in chapter 11, the chapter on human resource management, Make sure you know what a barbecue is. Bona fide occupational quality. Chapter 16 is the last chapter that's going to be represented. Controlling. You should know what controlling is and the basic control process. What is a standard? And what is benchmarking? What is comparison to standard and corrective action? Now, you should also be familiar with feedback, concurrent, and feed forward controls. In terms of financial controls, you should know what a cash flow analysis shows, an income statement, a balance sheet, and what else? Oh, a budget. What is a budget? And what do we mean by zero-based budgeting? Now, a couple of things that you want to make sure you know for the final exam. You should know the steps in the managerial decision-making model. You should be able to define management. You should know the functions of management. You should know the skills that managers need. Levels of management. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. In terms of the exam, review. You can review by listening or watching this video. Do it just before you go to sleep, and retroactive inhibition should set in. When you get to the exam with your Scantron and your number 2 pencil, go in and mark all the ones you know, and then go back and guess on all the others. Good luck, and have a good day.